going to, no, let's see, there's no public hearings, there's no policy items. At 8, administrative item, 2 resolutions, one accepting the annual audit report, which includes the basic financial statements and auditor's opinion for the city. And the second one's the, well, let's take the first one, 8.1.
Let's see if I can get it up here. So Vice Mayor Davis, members of the council, I'm Maria Oberg. I'm the
Maria, could you get closer to the microphone?
you have in your packet today a small little document that we affectionately call the CAFR. It's our comprehensive annual financial report, and it's not the easiest one to summarize in 5 slides, but we tried. Basically, the CAFR is our annual audit. It covers the last fiscal year, so July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2014. It was prepared by our outside independent auditor, Lance, Sull, and Lunghard. And we had good report this year. We got an unmodified opinion from the auditors, which is the highest rating of praise you can get from an auditor. They're not very good with great adverbs or adjectives. We basically, the unmodified opinion means that we have done 2 field works where they've tested all kinds of financial accounts for us. Our internal controls were found to be strong and effective. They did not find any material weaknesses or deficiencies. Basically, if you want to summarize the financial position of the city during last fiscal year, it's stable. There were some increases, not very big enough to be considered significant. We did have a net position, which is our assets less our liabilities. The net position increased quite dramatically, $27 million over the prior fiscal year. That is mainly due to one-time transfer of former redevelopment funds. They were bond proceeds that we put into the ECCL fund. If we quickly look at the general fund results, this table compares our audited statements of 2013 versus 2014. And as you can see, our revenues increased a little. Sales tax revenues actually went up. We are now at $8 million, so we surpassed 2001, 2002. And then expenditures increased a little bit, but not a whole lot. They're actually lower than our budget, and that's because we had significant staffing vacancies in several departments. Public Works and Police are part of those. So basically, our unassigned ending fund balance increased from $10.3 million in 2013 to almost $12 million in 2014. If we look at reserves, Council has in place a policy that says that we should put aside funds for unfunded liabilities and capital needs as we go along. The policy goal is 25% of budget expenditures should be the unassigned fund balance in the general fund. And together with the Economic Uncertainty Fund, we should have a reserve balance of at least 50%. So if you look at this table, you see that we had actually a 40% unassigned fund balance in the general fund, together with the Economic Uncertainty Fund of 19%, which meant a total of 59%. Now, these funds we usually transfer to projects as Council gives us direction, and we will be bringing forward that together with the mid-budget report that we'll do in May. Then during the Finance Advisory Committee meeting, and this is something that is not yet part of the balance sheet for the CAFR, but it will be starting next year, is the question of unfunded liabilities. That gets a lot of media attention, and it's definitely something that's on everyone's mind. So the main ones we have are, of course, our retirement pensions and medical health care for retirees, or OPEB. Before we go into these numbers, I just want to point out that the retirement, the pension reports, those actuarial valuations are as of June 30, 2013. They are always a year and a half behind. The OPEB, however, the retiree medical, is as of October of 2014, so it's a little bit more up to date. So some of these numbers will have changed. We've had some positive market changes. So But if you look at our MESA, which is our miscellaneous pensions for our miscellaneous employees, our unfunded liability is $5.8 million. For the police, it's $8.9 million. And for the fire, which is with Alameda County, it's about $4.1 million. And they sound big, and they are big. However, what you need to be concerned with most is the funding status. And as you can see, it ranges from 78 to 85%, which is actually, in terms of retirement, that's the sweet spot. 80 to 85% is kind of the target where you want to fund your pension. You don't want to completely fund it or overfund it, because it is an investment account. It's a long-term liability. If you overfund this account, then you've taken money away from other services. The same goes for OPEB. Our Emeryville, for our own employees, we have an unfunded liability of $2.4 million, and for the fire with Alameda County, we have a $1.6 million unfunded liability. And I know that not applicable for the funding status is going to throw people off. The reason it is like that is the report we get from Alameda County shows the entire pool, and so they have not broken out what our assets are. However, on our own books, we have put aside about $1.7 million for this explicit purpose that was done last year and the year prior. So we are actually funded on this liability. And then the 46% for the Emeryville OPEB Trust is actually very, very good, especially compared to other agencies. If you look at other local agencies in California and throughout the nation, we are probably at the top as far as funding goes. And again, this is a lot because council, this one and prior ones, have had a vision and a strategy to have us pre-fund on a regular basis for the past several years. So we're getting there. And I have Michelle Strawson-O'Hara, our accounting supervisor, in the audience, and she is available to help answer any questions you might have. But she and her staff have done a wonderful job. So,
For the council comments, do we have any public comment on this? Andre, come forward.
I want to bring a short question here. What are we going to do with the homeless? And we talk about all these millions there, and I know homeless, he gets $200 a month for food. And so, I mean, there is something that is really wrong. And I'm going to mention that the state of California is spending $1 million a day, more than $1 million a day, for the destruction of the Old Bay Bridge. So it has been, and it's in a paper, I'm not making it, I just found that out through their publication. The first part of the contract for demolition calls for $300 million. And now we are talking about another phase 2 and phase 3. So maybe the demolition of the Old Bay Bridge will cost $1 billion. And we have homeless here. I mean, something is wrong. I mean, I don't want to make fun, but, you know, we talk about all this money there, and there is people really starving here. And they sleep on the side of the freeway, and if they are caught on the freeway, they are put in jail or something, you know. So I think we should really talk about it.
Any comments from the council? Scott?
Well, I attended my first finance committee meeting, and thank you for being a member, those of you who've served. It's really good to come onto the council and know that we are not behind. And running a small business, getting 5% behind is a miserable experience. I've had this. It's awful. And I just love it that our city is not 5% behind. We are ahead, and I think that a part of being a city is being an effective small business. In effect, for our little community, we need to have a balanced point of view. And I hope to understand our budget further and look out in a balanced way for issues like Mr. Carpio mentioned. The homeless need to eat. Well, that has to be a part of our budget. It is partly. We have to look at that on an annual basis, but we have to make sure that we stay at least 5% ahead. So I was pleased to see the auditor's report, and it's thorough, and I'm glad we are in the position we're in.
Jack?
I'll simply, I guess, co-sign onto a lot of what Scott said there. And I serve with Nora on the Finance Committee. I always enjoy reading the CAFR. It's a very long document, but I really enjoy it. And I think the other people on the Finance Committee do too. There are a couple of things.
Right.
Right, we do. We enjoy it. There are a couple of things that I have had kind of questions about. One of them has to do with the number that Maria pointed out, which is our total reserve balance in the general fund being at 59% when our policy is at 50%. And so I just want to, in the past, we have had discussions about distributing any excess funds toward capital improvement projects, seeing these as one-time funds. I want to be sure that we're being careful about growth, though, because we have more people here and more demands on services. So I'm hoping to understand whether this is a function of growth as well. And I just want to also echo, whenever I think about and read stories about unfunded liabilities in other cities, it's very consoling to me to know that we're not to be included in this same group. That what we've done here puts us way ahead of many other agencies. And with that, I'd just like to thank staff for their hard work on this as well. Thanks.
Diane?
I did not find any joy in reading the CAFR on Sunday night, but I did it. And I am so pleased to live in a city where the wisdom of our council has really put us in a good position. It's shocking to see that we have 59% in our total reserve balance when our goal is 50. And you know, I'm looking at our five-pronged long-term budget philosophy, and I have a question. So I would like to know, are we ever going to have a chance to review this philosophy? I think it has served us well. But kind of to tack on to what Councilmember Asher was saying, it would be a shame to see money sitting there when it could be used for services if those services are needed. So, you know,
It will not sit there. You know, actually the policy does say 50% or more. There is a little sentence in there about, you know, we should try to really build up a future long-term reserve as well.
Yes.
And you never use one-time money to fund long-term, right? So,
Right.
But yes, we will bring this together with the mid-budget cycle. It's 1 year. So in May, we will bring forward all the adjustments we need to do, and this can be part of that.
Okay, very good.
And really briefly, if I may, too, we are actually also working on a 5-year fiscal forecast, which we're planning on bringing in the spring as well. That, coupled with some mid-year operating budget adjustments, for example, the transfer tax that was just passed has yet to be incorporated into the budget, so that will be coming to you. But we've also been talking about looking at some of our financial policies that you all have in place, and possibly adjusting some of those in light of what we see with the fiscal forecast. I do also want to point out there is a category of unfunded liabilities that we did not include in this, which are your capital needs, and those are very, very, very large. And you know, the 5-year CIP that you all passed this last June, when staff was going through the exercise of coming up with the projects for that CIP, we put them into categories A, B, and C. A were the projects that absolutely have to be done now. The B's were things that really are going to need to be done within, sometime in the next 5 years. The C projects were things that we know we need to do someday, but we know we have no funding for, and we didn't even bother bringing those to the council as part of that exercise. They're tens of millions of dollars. So I just want to make that point that category is not included in that chart.
Sabrina, just give us a ballpark.
Oh my goodness.
Instead of many millions, just a ballpark of the A and B projects that we want to move forward in the city in the next couple of years.
Maurice, do you remember the number? I want to say it's
Dollar number,
20 million maybe?
Well, we funded 90 million roughly, and I don't recall offhand what the others.
Yeah, I think the last 5-year CIP, which was many years ago, had roughly $200 million worth of projects in it. Yeah. And you all have funded approximately 90 million.
And clearly with global warming, we're going to have to do something about our shoreline. Bill, you wanted to say something. Bill Reuter, Chair of the Finance Committee.
Just one quick comment. I want to compliment the staff on their adept and deft refinancing of the city's debt and of the holdover debt from the redevelopment agency. That's a policy, a redevelopment policy, refinancing policy, which the committee strongly recommended and endorsed, and has been carried out with great success over the long haul. It will save the city millions of dollars.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding that, Bill. Any other comments on this item? Let's move on to ECCL. Oh,
Motion and,
Michael, did you want to say something?
no, I just wondered if we had a motion and a second.
Oh, I'll move it.
Oh, okay.
Second.